Hi everyone, it's Agnieszka Murdoch from 5 Minute Language. Welcome to my channel. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already and give this video a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. So today's video is about 18 overused English words and expressions, and I'm going to give you some alternative words and expressions that you can use instead. So the reason why these words and expressions are overused is because they don't make you sound as fluent as you could sound when you speak English. So when you're learning English, it's a good idea to always learn synonyms and to learn different alternative words and expressions that you can use. And that will make you sound a little bit more unique, and it will enable you to add a little bit of nuance to what you're saying. Okay, so we're going to start with the most overused word in the English language probably, which is the word very. So instead of using the word very, you can say absolutely or deeply. These are the two alternatives I'm going to give you. So absolutely, you can, for example, say something is absolutely delicious or absolutely fantastic. And if you want to say you're very sorry, you can say you're deeply sorry for something. The next word is the word quite, which again is an overused English word. Instead of saying quite, you can say slightly or kind of. So for example, instead of saying something is quite difficult, you can say it's kind of difficult or it's slightly difficult, just a little bit. Okay, the next one is the word good, and there are lots of synonyms of the word good, so you will choose a different synonym depending on what it is that you're talking about. But one example of a word that you can use instead of good is the word excellent. So excellent actually means really good, and a lot of the synonyms of the word good will be different kind of degrees of how good something is, so you have to be careful which one you choose. But you can say you saw an excellent film last night instead of saying you saw a very good film last night. The same goes for the word bad. So something can be bad, but it can also be terrible. So instead of saying that film was really bad, you can say it was terrible or it was awful instead of saying it was really bad. Then the next one is great, which again is something that's always very tempting to say. For example, that meal was great or the film that you watched was great. Instead of saying great, you can give it a little bit more nuance. So you can, for example, say fantastic or brilliant or phenomenal. So you already have 3 different words that you can use instead of great. Fantastic, brilliant, phenomenal. Okay, the next one is many, and many is quite a vague word because it doesn't really mean anything, and it's always good to actually specify, do you mean more than 10? Do you mean hundreds? Do you mean thousands? Obviously, many is a completely appropriate word in a lot of contexts, but if you want to sound a little bit more nuanced, you can, instead of saying many, you can, for example, say a great deal of. So you can say a great deal of people, a great deal of ideas, that kind of thing. You can also say loads of if you're talking about many of something. So loads of people, loads of ideas. Or you can say a significant number of something or a significant amount of something. So for example, there were a significant number of people at the gathering, or you can say there was a significant amount of water in the fields. Okay, the next one is maybe, and instead of saying maybe, which is quite a common phrase for somebody who's maybe at a lower intermediate or intermediate level in English, you can say perhaps. Perhaps make you sound a little bit more advanced in English. You can also use the word possibly, so something is possibly going to happen instead of saying something is maybe going to happen. Okay, the next overused phrase in the English language is when you report somebody else's speech. So when you say he said or she said. Instead of saying said, you can specify what exactly that person did. So they noted something, they announced something, they exclaimed something. So instead of saying she said that the weather was good, you can say she noted that the weather was good, and that will make you sound a little bit more fluent. Okay, the next one is important. Important is a very flexible word. You can use it in many different situations, but if you want to sound a little bit more advanced in English or a little bit more nuanced, then you can use 3 different words, which I'm going to give you. The first one is essential, the second one is urgent, and the third one is critical. So when something is critical, that means it's very, very important. When something is urgent, it means you need to do it very soon because it's very important. And if something is essential, that means you can't really do without it. So something is so important that it must be in place. Okay, the next one is another adjective, and it's the word big. Big, again, is quite a basic word. It's very overused. It's actually better when you specify how big something is by using a different word. So instead of saying big, you can say substantial. For example, a substantial amount of money. You can say extensive. So for example, somebody is doing extensive research into a topic. Or you can say considerable, a considerable amount of time that something is going to take you. The next one is happy, and again, instead of saying happy, you can be a little bit more precise by saying how happy somebody is or how happy you are with something. So you can say thrilled, which means you're very happy and excited about something. You can say delighted, which means you're very pleased with something, you're very happy about something. Or you can say content, which means you're happy with something, you're okay with something, without saying that you're super excited about it. Okay, the next one is interesting, and that's a very overused English word which comes up a lot when you discuss things like films or books or computer games or video games. You say something is interesting. So instead of saying it, you can say something like captivating. So for example, the book or the story was captivating. You can say it was fascinating, which means it's very interesting. Or you can say something was compelling, which again means it was interesting and engaging. Okay, the next one is the verb to like. So instead of saying that you like something, you can say that you appreciate something, for example. So I appreciate it when you bring me cake, when you bake some cake for me. Or you can say that you approve of something, which means you like it, you're okay with it, you agree to it. So I approve of your latest script for a film. Okay, the next one is nice, and usually it's when we talk about people, when we say somebody is nice. But actually, if you want to sound a little bit more advanced in English or a little bit more fluent, you can use a word which actually specifies why somebody is nice. So what is it about them that makes them nice? They can be charming, for example, which means they have this charm about them. They can be kind, which means they're very polite and generous. So instead of saying nice, think about some adjectives that you will be able to use to describe exactly what that person is like. Okay, the next one is another overused word, and it's the word things or thing. When you say things, it doesn't really mean anything because nobody really knows what you're talking about exactly. So it's always best to really say what it is that you mean by things. Is it ideas? Is it items? Is it books? Is it houses? And so on. There's lots of different possible things that you can mean by saying the word thing. So that's my advice. Think about what it is specifically that you're talking about. Okay, the next one is funny, and I'm going to give you one synonym, which is the word amusing. If something is funny and amusing, it's basically the same thing, but amusing is maybe a more kind of advanced word to use. The next one is also. Also is another overused English word. And instead of saying also, you can say moreover, or you can say what is more, or you can say in addition, or you can say furthermore. So there's lots of different phrases that you can use instead of saying also. And then the final one is the word some. And some, just like many, is a very vague word because you're not really specifying how much or how many of something you're talking about. So it's just a question of clarity here. Think about actually expressing how many exactly you mean. If you need some money, how much money do you actually need? Or if you've got some ideas, how many ideas? Have you got just a handful of ideas, or have you got loads of ideas? Okay, so this is it, the 18 most overused phrases and words in the English language and alternatives. So let me know in the comments below why you're learning English and what your overall goal is. I'd be really interested to hear that. And I will see you next time. Bye.